Good morning. Welcome back. My name is June Lewis. I represent for the entity and for the Aged Tutoring Service. I hope that we're all doing fine. I hope that we're all doing okay. I hope that we had time to review the other videos and to review our notes and all of that. So here we are for another interactive session. And we'll be looking further at the human anatomy and physiology. At this time, we'll be looking at the systems of the body. And on the board here, we have some systems: integumentary, skeletal, muscular, nervous, respiratory, endocrine, the circulatory, urinary, digestive, and the reproductive systems. These notes are in your book. So we look at the integumentary system first. And the integumentary system, the skin belongs to that system. Our skin and its accessory structures, our hair, nails, various glands, muscles, nerves, make up the integumentary system. And the integumentary system, it protects the body, it helps to maintain a constant body temperature, and it provides sensory information about the surrounding environment. The skin of all the body's organs. So here, the skin is an organ. And of all the body organs, the skin is most inspected and more exposed to diseases, infections, and injury. Structurally, the skin consists of two main parts. Remember, anatomy has to do with structure. And structurally, the skin is comprised of two parts, the epidermis and the dermis. Structurally, the skin consists of two main parts, the epidermis and the dermis. The epidermis is the superficial, thinner portion, which is composed of epithelial tissues. The deeper, thicker connective tissue part is called the dermis. Recall that we did directional terms and other terms that are used along the street, and we talk about the opposite terms when we talk about the location of body parts relative to each other. So we talk about superficial, and we talk about deep. So deep to the epidermis, we have the dermis. And deep to the dermis, but not a part of the skin, you have the subcutaneous layer, or the subcu layer, or it is also referred to as the hypodermis. And this layer serves as a storage depot for fats, and it contains the large blood vessels that supplies the skin. The note will tell you that the dermis has four major types of cells and their function: the keratinocytes, the melanocytes, the Langerhans, and the Merkel cells. The keratinocytes, these produce the protein keratin. The melanocytes, they produce a pigment called melanin, which contributes to the skin color, my dark colored skin, melanin. The Langerhans cells, these have to do more with immune responses, protecting the skin against invading microorganisms. And the Langerhans cells, they are easily damaged by UV rays, ultraviolet rays. So also are the melanocytes. So we need to protect our skin from overexposure to UV lights. And then you have the Merkel cells, and these function in the sensation of touch, tactile touch. These the Merkel cells, that's what allow us to feel things, the tactile, the sensitivity there. Right? The Merkel cells, they are tactile, the sensation of touch. Sensory, sensation of touch. Then deep to the epidermis, now you have the dermis, and deep to the dermis you have the subcu layer. Now the dermis is made up of two sublayers, and that you can read about. The papillary region, which consists of connective tissues containing elastic fibers, stretchy. You have free nerve endings are also in the dermis, and these also initiate signals which give the sensation of warmth and coolness and pain and tickling and itching. These sensations that we feel are related to the dermis because we have a lot of nerve endings in the dermis. And then there's the other layer of the dermis called the reticular layer that you can read about also in the book. The extensibility of the skin can be seen around joints and in pregnancy and obesity. This region has a lot of collagen and elastic fibers. So the combination of the collagen and the elastic fibers in the reticular region provide the skin with its strength. Extensibility, that means the ability to stretch, and elasticity, so the ability after the skin is stretched to return to its normal shape. And that's what happens during pregnancy and in and around our joints and during obesity. Extreme stretching may produce small tears in the dermis. Remember, we're still talking about the dermis. We are talking about the reticular region. So extreme stretching of the dermis may cause small tears in the dermis. And this type of stretching and tearing is called striae or stretch marks, visible as red or silvery white streaks on the skin surface. You see it a lot when persons lose weight and a lot in pregnant persons. Then you also have the sweat glands, you have the sebaceous glands, you have the nerve endings. So those you can read upon. The information, as I said, is in your textbooks. So we're moving on to the musculo-skeletal system. Here we're talking about two systems in one, muscular system and the skeletal system. Now, you might stop at this point and ask, so Miss, why are we doing these systems? All right, we're finished talking about the skin or the integumentary system, but how does that tie into what we're doing? The skin offers protection, and if the skin is subjected to any type of openings or any tear in the skin, or if the skin is not intact, we are at risk for microorganisms to invade our body through the opening in our skins. And there are a lot of infections and diseases that affect the skin also. So we need to protect this very important organ. Remember, it is the largest organ in the body, and it needs to be protected at all costs. Of all the body's organs, the skin is the most inspected and more exposed to diseases and infections and injury. And remember that we do need the integumentary system, of which the skin is a part, to protect the body, to help to maintain a constant body temperature so we don't have temperatures fluctuating outside of normal ranges. And it also provides sensory information about the surrounding environment, because we do get cold. We do have hairs on our hands, which is part of, on our skin, which is part of the integumentary system. So if an ant or even a spider might be rolling up our hands, then it touches the hair, and then the skin gonna get involved, and then information is sent to the brain to say something is happening on the skin, and the brain is gonna respond by saying, brush it off, kill it, do something, take action. So our skin in healthcare is very important. It is the largest and most inspected organ of the body, and it is the most exposed to diseases and infection. So any opening of the skin is cause for concern, and it's the opening of the skin when we have ulcers or bed sore, as we call them. And these can range from stage 1 to unclassified, where you don't have only have the skin being affected, but muscle is also affected. So let us take note of that. Let us go back now to the muscle system, muscular system, and the skeletal system. I'm reading from your notes, it's in your notes. The skeletal system forms the framework of the body and thus enabling us to perform movements such as walking and grasping objects. But the skeletal system alone cannot function. It functions with the muscle or the muscular system. So muscles will be sitting on the bones that form the skeletal system. The human skeleton consists of 206 named bones, most of which are paired, which mean on the left side and on the right side you have one of each. All right, remember, if you divide the body mid-sagittally, that means 50-50, half on one side, half on the next, then you will have the same type of bones on the left side as you will have on the right side. So the human skeleton consists of 206 named bones, most of which are paired, with one member of each pair being on the right side of the body and the other being on the left. So you're going to divide the body mid-sagittally so that you can see the paired bones. The skeleton of infants and children, however, have more than 206 bones. Some of these bones will later fuse together, and so we'll end up with the 206. For example, our hip bones and some of the bones of the vertebral column or the back. Now, all bones are not the same, so we have different types of bone. But bones are classified based on their shape and their location within the body. Almost all bones of the body can be classified into 5 main types based on their shape. Now you have long bones, you have short bones, you have flat bones, you have irregular bones, and you have sesamoid bones. There is a 6th classification, but what the text is saying that this type of bone is classified by its location rather than by its shape. Long bones, long, they are found in the thigh, which is the femur, in the leg, where you have the tibia and the fibula, the arm, the humerus, the arm, the humerus, the forearm, you have the ulna and the radius, our fingers and our toes. These are where we'll find long bones. Now we have short bones, are cuboid in shape and are nearly equal in length as width. So it's almost a square, but it's a cuboid in shape. For example, the carpels, the wrist bone, the bones that are in our wrist, all right, and the tarsal bone at the ankle. So you have short bones sitting there. Yeah, flat bones include the cranial bones, which protect the brain, the sternum or the breastbone right here, and you have the ribs. So flat bones include the cranial bones, and these cranial bones will protect the brain. The sternum, which is the breastbone, and the ribs protect the organs in the thoracic cavity. And you have the scapulae or the shoulder blade. These are flat bones. Then we have irregular bones, and these include our backbones, the vertebrae, hip bones, certain facial bone, and the heel bone, which is also called the calcaneus. We have sesame bones, and these bones shape like a sesame seed, for example, the kneecap, and they protect the tendons from excessive wear and tear. We have structural bone, and this is classified by its location rather than its shape. So structural bones are small bones located in sutures. We'll get to when we're doing the skull further along. We'll talk about sutures of the skull. All right, these are immovable joints, so you know that these joints are movable, but in the skull we do have joints, but these joints are immovable. Sutures, they're called immovable joints between certain cranial bones. So structural bones are small bones located in sutures between certain cranial bones. Their number varies greatly from person to person. So the structural bones vary from person to person. Bones of the adult skeleton are grouped into two major divisions. You have the appendicular skeleton and you have the axial skeleton. The appendicular skeleton, append means to hang onto. The appendicular skeleton consists of 126 bones. The axial skeleton consists of 80. Both of these divisions join to form the complete human skeleton. This information is in your book, so you can do further reading. Bone surface markings. There are markings on the surface of bones. You have depressions and openings, and you have processes, projections, or outgrowth. So there are two major surface markings. You have depressions and openings. So these form joints that will allow for soft tissue, such as blood vessels and nerves to pass through them. Then you have processes and projections, or outgrowth, and this helps to form joints or serve as attachment points for connective tissues, such as ligaments and tendons. Ligaments and tendons are connective tissues. So you should do further reading. Go to Google, go to further notes, textbooks, and read up on depressions and openings, processes, projections, and outgrowth. All right, we are taking a cursory look at the human anatomy and physiology. So this axial skeleton consists of 80 bones, and these are found in the head, and our trunk. And the axial skeleton consists of 6 parts: skull bones, ear bones, hyoid bones, ribs, sternum, and the bones of the vertebral column. And we have a lot of information here that you can read on, and then we will discuss. So when you look at the diagram of the axial skeleton and you look at the vertebral column, you will realize that not all the bones of the vertebral column are connected to the sternum. We have 12 pairs of ribs in the human body. Each rib has a neck, a head, and a body. They give support to the sides of the thoracic cavity, our sides. The spaces between ribs are called intercostal spaces. Right, people? The spaces between our ribs, those are called intercostal spaces. Go to Google, bring up a diagram of our rib cage, the human vertebral column, and take a look. You might want to do a drawing in your book to see how these ribs are connected at the front, anteriorly to the sternum, the breastbone. The first 7 pairs of ribs are directly connected at the front, anteriorly to the sternum by costal cartilages. The ribs that have costal cartilages are attached directly to the sternum are called true ribs. So the ribs that have costal cartilages and are attached directly to the sternum are called true ribs. The other 5 pairs of ribs are referred to as false ribs because their costal cartilages either attach indirectly to the sternum or they do not attach to the sternum at all. Bring up a diagram from Google of the thorax of the adult human. And that's the thorax is the entire chest area. The skeletal part of the thorax, which is the thoracic cage, is a bony enclosure formed by the sternum, which is the breastbone, costal cartilages. Those cartilages attach ribs to the sternum, and the bodies of the thoracic vertebrae, they are going to the back. The thorax encloses and protects the organ in the thoracic and abdominal cavity and provides support for the bones of the shoulder girdle and the upper limbs. The sternum is one bone. It's a flat bone located in the center of the anterior thoracic wall, the front. The ribs, 12 pairs, 24 in all. So 12 pairs of ribs are in the human body. The spaces between ribs are called intercostal spaces. When you look at your diagram that you will get from Google and join in your book, you will realize that the first 7 pairs of ribs are directly connected at the front of the sternum by costal cartilages. The other 5 pairs of ribs are referred to as falls because the costal cartilages either attach indirectly to the sternum, remember this flat bone, anterior at the front. The other 5 pairs of ribs are referred to as falls ribs because their costal cartilages either attach indirectly to the sternum or they do not attach at all. Now, the cartilages of the 8th, 9th, and 10th pair of ribs attach to one another. First, attach to each other, and then to the cartilage of the 7th pair of ribs. Look at your diagram that you have taken off the internet and identify what you're talking about here. The 11th and the 12th pair of ribs are falls, and ribs designated as floating. So, again, the cartilages of the 8th, 9th, and 10th pair of ribs attach to one another. So 8, 9, and 10 attach to each other, and then to the cartilage of the 7th pair of ribs. So there, 3 of them attach together, and then the 3 now by one attachment to the 7th ribs. Remember, we have 5 pairs of falls ribs: 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. 3 pairs of these falls ribs do attach to the sternum, but they are attached indirectly. They don't have any costal cartilage of themselves to attach to the sternum. So they attach to the sternum via the 7th rib. So 8, 9, and 10, they join together, and then they attach to the costal cartilage of the 7th rib to the sternum. Then you have the 11th and the 12th pair of ribs. These are also falls. Remember, we have 5 pairs of falls. They are falls and are designated as floating ribs or floating vertebrae because the costal cartilage at the front, the anterior end, does not attach to the sternum at all. These ribs attach only posteriorly, meaning in the back, to the thoracic cavity. Okay, people? Now, why are these important? When we did regions of the body before, we spoke about the cervical region, the thoracic region, the lumbar, the sacral, and the coccyx. So in the thoracic region, that is where we are now, and we have 12 pairs of ribs, T1 to T12. So any type of situation happening, we might have broken a rib, and they need to say which one. So they will tell you T1, meaning on the left side, that number 1 rib on the left side. Or RT5 means the 5th rib on the right side. So these information are important along our medical street because we need to identify the location of where any type of irregular situation has taken place. So the adult vertebral column usually consists of 26 bones. Note, however, that the total number of vertebrae during early development is 33. So as a child grows, several vertebrae in the sacral and the coccygeal region, they're going to fuse. The vertebral column, the sternum, and the ribs form the skeleton of the trunk of the body. People, again, I'm saying to you, make sure you have a diagram in your book. Go to Google, get a diagram, draw it big, color it nicely, where you can identify the things that you have read about in your book. So we're looking at regions of the vertebral column, which I just spoke about. The vertebral column is divided into 5 regions. The vertebrae in each region are numbered in sequence from superior to inferior. So you have the cervical region, and that is the neck region. And it consists of 7 vertebrae, numbered C1 to C7. The thoracic region, and that consists of 12 vertebrae, T1 to T12. Movement of the thoracic regions are limited by the attachment of the ribs to the sternum. So really you can't really do a lot of movement in the thoracic region because of the attachment of the ribs to the sternum. Coming down now in the lumbar region, you have 5 vertebrae, L1 to L5. The lumbar vertebrae are the longest and strongest in the vertebral column because of the amount of body weight increases towards the inferior end of the backbone. And this is a question you always see in your exam. The lumbar vertebrae are longest and strongest in the vertebral column. And this is because of the amount of body weight that the lumbar region has to carry. And this weight increases towards the inferior end of the backbone because all of the top weight will be concentrated as we go lower down. So the lumbar region carries the bulk of the weight. Then below the lumbar, you have the sacrum region, and this consists of 5 vertebrae, S1 to S5. So the sacrum is a triangular bone, and it is formed by the fusion of the 5 sacral bones. So the 5 sacral bones, they fuse to form one triangular shaped bone. So maybe you and I can't identify 5 bones there. But maybe one of the pictures, one of the drawings that you're going to find will show you the 5. But as we get older, these 5 bones kind of fuse into a triangular shaped bone called the sacrum. Then below the sacrum, or inferior to the sacrum, you have the coccyx region. And this region also has 4 vertebrae, CO1 and CO4. The coccyx is also a triangle in shape and is formed by the fusion of usually 4 coccygeal vertebrae. Some points to note: that intercostal spaces separate ribs. Intervertebral discs separate vertebrae. And this is a normal question that the examiner likes to ask. Intervertebral discs are found between the bodies of adjacent vertebrae. So you have the vertebrae 1 and 2, and the space here in between, that would be the intervertebral disc. So these are found between the bodies of adjacent vertebrae, from the second cervical vertebrae to the sacrum. Each disc has a tough outer fibrous ring and an inner soft pulpy elastic substance. And the disc forms strong joints. And this disc permits movement of the vertebral column, and it absorbs shock. Under compression now, these discs will flatten and broad, much like a balloon. If you put a balloon between the space and then you have weight coming down on it, the balloon gonna flatten out. So the disc, when you have much weight, this disc flattens and broadens. So with age, the inner soft substance hardens and becomes less elastic. Now the narrowing of the disc, because once it's flat, this disc gets narrow, together with compression of the vertebrae, will result in a decreased height as one gets older. So because the intervertebral discs, they get flatter, and then the vertebrae also, we're going to have some fusing going on, narrowing of the vertebrae, then our height is decreased because it's no longer like this, where you have this amount of disc space. As the disc flattens, as compression of the vertebrae increases, then the disc flattens, so the space is shortened, so we appear to be shorter. So you might say, well, oh no man, how June looks so short now? Yes, of course June is short because June is old, and with age and with the compression of the vertebrae, we have a decrease in height as we get older. The cervical, thoracic, and lumbar vertebrae are movable, but the sacrum and the coccyx are not. All these notes are in your book, so I'm just sitting here reading with you. Okay, please. I'm trying to entice you to get into the habit of reading. You are in the field of nursing, and to be a good support to your superior nurses and to support your fellow human, then this type of information is important. Normal curvature of the vertebral column when viewed laterally, meaning from the side. The adult vertebral column shows 4 slight bends, and these bends are known as normal curvature. Relative to the front of the body, the cervical, so you have cervical, then you have thoracic, below thoracic you have lumbar. So here they're telling you that the cervical and lumbar curves are convex. Convex, they are bulging out. The thoracic and the sacral curves are concave, so they're in. The curves of the vertebral column increases its strength. So that's why it is important that we have proper bending or curvature of the vertebral column, because these curves increases the strength of the vertebral column. They help to maintain balance when we are in the upright position. They absorb shock during walking, and they help to protect the vertebrae from fractures. So in our notes, we do have a drawing, which I will show you here on mine. I hope you can see it. All right, so this is in your textbook, showing the normal curvature of the vertebral column. So the thoracic and sacral curves are called primary curves because they form first during fetal development. The cervical and the lumbar curves are known as secondary curves because they begin to develop at a later stage. So thoracic and sacral, you'll see, they'll just show you pelvic in the book, but just know that pelvic, you have sacral and coccyx region down there. So they just tell you about the sacral curve. In your diagram, you're going to see pelvic, same thing. Note the curves and note the shape, whether convex or concave. What are some of the disorders of the vertebral column? We are in nursing. What are some of the disorders that we might come across? Various conditions may exaggerate the normal curvature of the vertebral column, or the column may acquire a lateral bend, resulting in abnormal curve of the vertebral column. 3 such abnormal curves are kyphosis, lordosis, and scoliosis. The definitions are in your book. I could read them here for you, but they're outlined there. Read them. If you do not understand them, we can discuss. We move on to herniated disc or slip disc, as we would normally hear. All right, so in their function as shock absorber, intervertebral discs are constantly being compressed. Remember, intervertebral discs are those spaces between the vertebrae disc. All right, so intervertebral discs separate vertebrae. So yeah, the intervertebral discs are constantly being compressed. If the anterior and the posterior ligaments of the disc, front and back ligaments of the disc, become injured or weakened, the pressure developed in the nucleus, the soft portion of the disc, and that pressure might be great enough to rupture the cartilage, the fibrous cartilage that is around these discs. Now, if this occurs, then the content, the inner content of the disc may herniate, mean to protrude, to come out. So it may squeeze out. If the pressure inside the disc is so strong, it's squeezing, then you find the pressure gonna cause the outer band of the disc to crack, to open, and the content of the that is contained within the disc gonna start protruding out into one of the adjacent vertebral body. And this condition is called a herniated or a slip disc. So because the lumbar region bears much of the weight of the body and is the region of the most flexing and bending, herniated discs most often occur in the lumbar region. One more thing we have to look at here before I send you off on your own, we're going to look at the unique features of the skull. The skull exhibits several unique features that are not seen in other parts of the body. These include sutures, paranasal sinuses, and fontanelles. Sutures are seams. You know, like we sew in a pants or a dress or a shirt, we talk about the seams. So sutures are like that, between skull bones. A suture is an immovable joint in an adult that is formed only between skull bones and that hold most skull bones together. Sutures in children are movable. So in children, the sutures are movable, and basically they allow to be, the movements are allowed so that you have an easier birth. Because if that skull was solid, then maybe the birth would not have occurred. So we have different types of sutures, and here we will only identify 4 of the prominent ones: the coronal suture, the sagittal suture, the lambdoid suture, and the squamous. You are to read on that and present a drawing of the adult skull showing the different sutures. The paranasal sinuses are cavities that are in certain cranial and facial bones near the nasal cavity. These paranasal sinuses are lined with mucous membranes that are continuous with the lining of the nasal cavity. The frontal, sphenoid, ethmoid, and maxillary bone all contain paranasal sinuses.